Hey, welcome back to the Worlds by Design podcast. I'm your host, Game Design Junkie. And today we got with us Christian from Gakriva Studios and our resident gamer girl, Cami. We're going to be talking about Gakriva Studios' new digital game, Flagstone Getty Legacy. And we're going to get into some of the technical aspects, but more importantly, we're going to be digging into the story and the world and the history behind the Getty people, which is really the focal point of this game. Cami, you want to give a quick introduction for yourself?
Oh, hi, I'm Cami. I'm. It's too early for this. I'm Cami. You'll see me as a variation of space time on other platforms, and I play tabletop games. Also do a bit of world building, but mostly play.
Well, are you running any games currently at the moment?
I am not running any games at the moment.
In the market for a new game. Christian, welcome to the channel. Why don't you tell us about yourself? And Christian.
Hello.
Hey, there you go.
I almost didn't recognize your voice.
Fair enough. So would you like to introduce yourself? Or would you prefer me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, so Christian is the owner and technical director at Gakriva Studios. He was also the sole developer behind Awaken the Time. Tell us a little bit about Awaken the Time for people that don't know about it.
Yeah. Originally, I wanted to make an MMORPG like everybody wants to start. And after I realized that's quite a big task, I decided to trim down the scope, but my vision on that game was to have different gameplay styles. All of them to be third person, but in one to be shooter, in one to be like Dark Souls, in one to be a little bit more sci-fi-ish. And you could progress through these different time zones, not with the same character, but with your soul entering in different characters.
Oh, that's kind of a cool concept. So you have your characters essentially possessing other bodies, or is he actually being reborn?
He is being reborn. He's possessing basically everything ended, and he recreated all his past lives, because the main character managed to evolve to that degree, and now he wanted to re-experience his past lives. So he kind of possess, but at the same time it's also himself.
Well, that's a very, very cool concept. That's currently available on Steam for anybody who wants to check it out. Highly encourage it. It's very impressive from a development standpoint that you managed to put out a game by yourself. That's a hard task to tackle. So tell us about the current project you're working on.
Well, now we're working on Flagstone, Getty, Legacy, and Dreams of God. I think you already started to talk about the Dreams of God, so...
Not really.
Yeah, I haven't really gotten into that yet on the podcast.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So should I start on...
Sure, man, lay it on us. Lay it on us.
Okay. So I wanted around 3 years ago to do, after the marketing failure that I did with Awaken the Time, I wanted to reinvent myself a little bit, and I wanted to make a game with a dragon from my mythology. and I kind of put together some, let's say, how it will start. I had the foggy vision and how it will end, to be able to have like multiple endings based on your decision. And started to do a little bit of iterations with some gameplay tests with just to see how the scope of the game could unfold. And then I joined a studio where I meet Tony, and I started by bugging him all the time. Is this creative writer good enough? Did this guy did a good job, and so on, until we finally broke the ice and started to talk. And he talked about his project and talked about the level cap issue that almost every game has when you get, I don't know, for example, to level 100, and then you can one-shot everybody below. But his game fascinated me with the levelless and classless system, which to me, in my mind, it was still an impossible task, and I didn't know even where to start to tackle that problem. And I showed him, based on a talk, I kind of talked about the elements and stuff like that, and kind of how I want to structure them, because I can create that some sort of a system that it won't rely on your level and mostly rely on your magic type or combat type. And he suggested a chakra system, so it just became the chakra system after that.
So, does the chakra system tie into the lore that you've got going for the game?
Yeah, so the narrative will be basically starting in reimagined Getty culture, to show the Getty culture but not recreate a historical moment or multiple historical moments, just to show the culture how it is, with of course with the addition of their mythology, not to make a one-on-one historical game.
Okay, so maybe I guess the first question, because I don't think many people have ever heard of the Getty. So who are they? Like, why is this a story that you're wanting to tell?
Well, in 2018, I heard a rumor about a discovery that they did about a tunnel that leads from Romania's Constanța, that's to the Black Sea, a tunnel that leads to Turkey. And this interests me a lot, because with the legendary story that I grew up with, one of them at least, was that there is a tunnel connecting from the Pucegi Mountains in Romania to the Pyramid of Giza, all the way to Puri in India, some place in China, but that's a little bit foggy. And now there was actually a very small portion of that legend that shows that maybe this is not a legend. And I looked into who did this. Did this my ancestors did this, or did the Indians, the Chinese, the Africans, the Egyptians, God knows who did this? And they, in this lore, it's talking that in the mytho, it's talking about the giants helping the Getty build with the building blocks.
So it's got this kind of Titan-esque lore around their construction mythology there?
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. So who were the Getty? Like, when did they come up in history?
Well, historically speaking, there is we found out not too long ago about the Kukuteni culture, which is kind of the oldest culture that kind of started a big civilization. But then there is a 2000 years gap around there, and then the Geti emerged. We don't know about the link between the Geti and the Kukuteni, but it's still in the Carpati region. Today's Romania, as it's known.
Okay, so this is from the region around the Carpathian Mountains.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Oh, go ahead.
they basically expanded all over the place, but they didn't conquer like I don't know, the Persian Empire or like the Roman Empire. They poorly became a very large population and started to migrate in all directions.
Do you have a map or something you can share with us? So we
Yeah,
can see
that
it?
might be.
That would be awesome. And so this is a kind of a personal thing for you then, in terms of your cultural history and trying to dig back in time and see where you came from, right?
Yes.
That's awesome. So, when you're telling the story here, are you trying to what's the main goal? Are you trying to push like a particular narrative about the Getty, or do you just want to kind of present them and let the players experience them a little bit?
I want to present them.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
Well, respect it.
And let the player determine their future, not to have a set in stone storyline or something like that.
Right. Cammy, what were you saying?
I said I respect that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned earlier that they had a lot of influence on other cultures, and I know you said they were coming from the Kukatan and from the Carpathian Mountain region, somewhere in that area. In terms of the timeline, where do the Gedi people fall in our chronological history? Are they're pre-Roman? So they predate Roman culture, which is probably why a lot of people don't know about them. But how much further back do they go?
5,000 years around there.
Wow.
But that's
That's a lot of time.
Yeah. I mean, modern history is generally only about 6,000 years old, so they're going back almost the entirety of or an equal time span. That's crazy.
Yeah, and my goal ultimately is kind of to make justice on this culture. Because basically, even I, being born and raised here, I learned that the Romans conquered us 2,000 years ago, and we just happened to talk the same language after that, and that's it, the end, the story of the Dacians, which is like a small part of the Geti.
So you had now if this was the Dacian tribes, then you would have had the Dacians and the Thracians. Were there other tribes mixed up in that as well?
Yeah, the Tisageti, which was where is now Russia and Moscow, that area. There was the Massageti, almost all the way to the Punjabs in India. Actually, one state in north of India was given to, I think a noble will be the best way to have like a correlation to today's terminologies, and he literally became the king of that state, like the Raja of that state.
So the theory is then that they started in the Carpathian Mountains, and went east as far as the Punjab. That is insane. Like that is a massive amount of territory to cover. Did they go west as well, or was it just to the east?
Yeah, West. They literally their let's say the kind of the first descendants were the Celts, which migrated west. You have
Oh, okay.
the later known as the Vikings, but those are actually Dacians migrating north and south. This is not historically proven, but it says that they migrated to Africa as well. There is one discovery in Kenya that the architecture is Dacian of that ancient city, but it's quite new because it's dated only 1,700 years or something like that old.
So we're seeing their architecture and cultural influences pop up all over, or I mean, like you mentioned that they went as far as the Punjab to the east. Like, what indications do we have of their influence in that region?
Especially
Well, I
in
don't want to discard other cultures, which that's a string that I'm carefully going across while doing all this.
Well,
But
one of the nice things about world building is that you realize that one culture will lead on to another culture, will lead on to another culture. We always build on what came before. So I think we can say that you know regardless of where a peoples live on Earth, there probably weren't always people there. Because otherwise you get into this silly argument that, well, everyone sprang up everywhere all at once, which is not very reasonable. And if you look at the time frame that you're talking about, you would be saying that these people would have been migrating around long before most of the established civilizations that we know of. I mean, our history really doesn't go that far back. Pre-Sumerian civilizations. So I think we can safely talk about influence without denigrating anyone. Just realizing that this came prior to, right?
this what actually an Indian kind of helped me here indirectly. He wrote the thesis, his PhD on the Getty, and his purpose was to find out who wrote the Vedic texts, which are the oldest written text, not carved in stone or something like that, or on clay. And he found out that there were 12 guys that wrote these books in guidance from the god Shiva, and he discarded the god Shiva because he said, let's put the gods aside for now and focus on the facts. And he slowly he actually discovered that there was this huge land that was given to one of these, let's call it migrators, or I don't know how to call them. And basically they wrote what you call as today Hindu culture. And he started to track them, and he discovered a lot of fortresses in Syria, especially in Syria, in Iraq. Two of them he discovered now it's also China there, because they conquered, I forgot the name of that country that they conquered recently.
So you're saying that they have evidence now that the Getty essentially ceded territory from Romania east into Asia, including India and the Middle East.
Yes.
That's cool.
That's a lot of land.
That's a lot of land, yeah.
And he managed to make the connection to Romania, and he stopped here.
So
I was about to say,
I'm curious. Well, yeah, two questions come out of what you said, and one of them is, you mentioned the Vedic texts, like, so they're giving the Getty credit for the Vedic texts. That's the first question, and the second question is, are they being given credit for the rise of, say, because you mentioned Iraq and Syria? Are we talking about like maybe early civilizations of Babylon in that region?
Yes.
Whoa, that's some pretty crazy history if it's correct, because that would then probably include Sumer, right, for Samaria.
Yes.
Mm.
In Tartaria, there is a very small village in Romania. Not very impressive. What's impressive of this place is that they discovered 3 tablets written on them. They couldn't properly date the date of the tablets, but the body that had the tablets as a necklace and one in some sort of a pocket, that body was dated 7,500 years ago.
Whoa.
Because the DNA was intact to manage to pinpoint to that age.
They caught it with intact DNA.
Yes.
Oh, that's crazy.
oh, wow.
Yeah, that's
And
that's a big find. I mean, in archaeological terms, that's a big find.
Yeah.
yeah, and this proves that the people who live there, and that's kind of comes, the lady of Tartaria is actually that woman that had those tablets on her. They consider that it was a matriarchy culture, at least in that region, and they predated the Sumerian texts by 1,500 years or something like that.
Oh, that's a lot of time.
Yeah. So, do you have some images or something you can share with us so we can see kind of what's going on here? I know for the people listening in a podcast form that won't help very much, but for us it would be incredibly useful for people who are here live.
Yeah, sure. Now,
Oh, that'd be amazing. And I'm really intensely curious about their connection with the Vedic texts because that is, like you said, it's one of the oldest written traditions that we have.
Yeah, to exist
Yeah.
and still be used somewhat.
And there's also, I know this is kind of getting off into the weeds with it, but the levels of technology and things that are described in the Vedic texts are, let's just say they define or defy our current understanding of history.
That is true. Yeah.
I mean, when you get into like the Vimanas and some of this other stuff, I mean, these were highly detailed mechanical descriptions.
I'm not as familiar with the Vedic texts.
They're fascinating if you ever get the chance to check them out.
Yeah.
yeah, actually, you can find in Ramayana or Aryavarta, it's written about these white people migrating from, they think, somewhere Poland or Ukraine. They migrated all the way to India and settled there.
So,
I mean, that would make
So
sense.
it is written in their texts about this.
what was that, Cammy?
I was about to say that would make sense. That area and location. Because I believe there are some sort of archaeological evidence in Poland and the way that people would most likely travel from Poland to northern India in that area. So I know that I'm pretty sure that's a thing. So that would make sense that would be there.
Okay, and so this tie between the Getty and the Vedic text, was this the reason that you decided to use the chakra system in Flagstone?
Yes.
That's cool. That's cool. So you
It's
have
it's a great system. So
now full disclosure to everybody listening, I am the lead designer and creative writer for Flagstone. Um, but it's way more interesting to hear Christian tell it. I love listening to him talk about his people, right? So some of these questions, I already know the answer to, but you don't. So hey, there we go. Um, so okay, now, where in the timeline does your new game Getty Legacy happen?
It will be in a late Bronze Age when some small tribes already discovered, like in the Iranians or Iranians. We know that they discovered the iron, and then Babylon kind of put their hands on that technology, and that's why they continue to rule.
So now one of the defining characteristics of the Vedic text is that they're expressing that the people who came had more advanced technology.
Yes.
So is that being represented in your game at all?
With the help of magic.
Ah, okay. So this is where your magic system comes in.
Yes.
Okay. So tell us about that.
Ooh, that was a long journey. Almost a 2-year journey of trying to figure out how to do this. Basically, our spell, ability system, which will be based on what you've unlocked in your chakra, you will be able to create any ability that you can imagine. That's our goal with this system. And we actually encourage you to test that as much as possible in our TTRPG version of the game, because that's already out there. And that will help us improve. If you find some ability that you cannot create, then definitely we will make adjustments to that.
That actually happened semi-recently when me and Darkness were going through some of the current stuff, and I was like, where's the farming stuff?
So, yeah, the ability system for Flagstone, which is currently under heavy revision, you can find that on the Dreams of God website on World Amble. Along with, we don't have the stuff for Getty Legacy public yet. That will be coming in the near future. We had to keep some stuff under development control for now. But the ability system itself is about basically building a sentence to describe what your character is doing. And you have some plug and play elements there that allow you to modify what you're doing. And yeah, the goal there is really flexibility, but that's a difficult design problem. But yeah, so okay, so you have this magic system. What's the story behind magic? Narratively, is there like, because obviously it's not something that we see in our modern world. So, how are you explaining that away in for your time period?
Well, even in medieval stories, not to talk, all the way to the medieval stories, they were talking about mana and how to absorb it from nature in order to be able to create magical spells. And that will be part of the game. So basically, you will use mana in order to make your abilities. To cast your magical abilities.
So in Flagstone Dreams of God, mana is the thing that binds mass, information, and energy together to form reality. And at least according to its its mythos there. Our material reality, there's not a lot of free mana available because everything's already pretty well concretized. So are they using, and they're kind of in this universe. So how are they manipulate using tools or something to manipulate the little mana that's there, or is it just more abundant at this point?
It will be more abundant, but not as crazy abundant as it is in Duende.
Fair.
I was about to say, is it just easier to? Is it just a thing that can be accessed? Do you need tools to access it at all?
Mechanically, the answer to that question is that mana is psychoreactive, so it responds to concentrated thoughts and feelings and emotions. The problem is that in the material plane there is not a lot of free mana available. It's not that there's not a lot of mana. It's just that mana is already bound up in reality, right? So, now in the kind of long-term lore of Flagstone, which is as a brand goes from far back in prehistory into the future, and it's kind of an alternate Earth universe. There was a period called the Era of Desolation, which Getty Legacy comes after the Era of Desolation, and during that event, ancient advanced civilizations were destroying stars and releasing these huge waves of mana through the universe that were stripping away other free mana as they passed. So really, after that event, mana was much less readily available in most places, including Earth. So to get back to the Getty, because that's really, I'm really digging this this vibe going here.
Yeah, I put the image of the tablets and the first map that he made.
Share your screen. I'm streaming our Discord, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, they'll be able to see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Let me open them first. And then there is this one. Okay. So this is the tablets.
Dope.
And this style that you see here, you can see it today in south of Romania. They still keep this tradition where they make pies at certain events, or breads, for example, for Christmas, where they have the calendar put on it. But apparently this is more than that.
Yeah, I was about to ask, what am I looking at?
The tablets that are older than the Sumerian texts.
And it's obviously a pictographic language. Like
Yes.
you can see a bull's head right there. You can see the ram or a goat. It looks like a ram in that one right there with someone walking behind it.
Yes.
And then there's also some symbols that are in here that are like geometrical, right? And these are not pictographic in that sense.
Those look like numbers.
Yeah, this is also a set of numbers. I don't have the data with me, but it's also representing how during the eclipse, the moon eclipse, the rays passes through some sort of a shield and hitting the earth.
How big is this?
Like an adult palm.
Like a what?
This one. An
Like a palm?
adult. Yes, your hand, like your without your fingers somewhere.
Sorry, I heard some dogs going off in the background. I couldn't hear. So.
Dogs are amazing.
Oh wow. Okay, so if this is like palm size, then those details on there are pretty fine to be carving into stone. I've heard, at least as far as the Babylonians were concerned, that they would do wet clay and etch the clay and then bake it. So now, is this stone carved or is this clay baked?
I think it's clay baked.
Oh, that's cool.
That would make sense.
Well, it makes sense, but it also raises the level of their sophistication extensively.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's one thing to sit there and, scratch at a rock for a couple of hours to get that effect. It's another thing to, hey, let me make a mold. Because it looks like that, it doesn't look like the hole in it was drilled. It looks like it was made that way.
It looks like it was made, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. What else you got? This is awesome.
Can you see my mouse cursor?
Yeah, sure can.
Also, the symbol that I kind of know more about, it's also because you can see this in today's traditional houses. So
it looks like a fire pot.
This is actually, yeah, you can also, yeah, it can look like that.
I was, it kind of looks, I don't have the greatest eyesight, but it looks like a birthday cake originally when I wasn't paying as much attention to it. But yeah, no, fire pot, much better interpretation.
Or maybe like an oil lamp.
Yeah.
The old bronze bowl oil lamps that they would have where it's set on a stand. That's really what that looks like with the fire coming off of it. That's interesting. Or number systems.
So anyway, we don't know how old is this symbol, but it's older than 7,500 as the dead body had it, because she had to know about it in order to carve it, and we still use it today after 7,000 years plus in our walls. We draw this on the walls to have like solar protection. That's
the other interesting one is the one in the top left of that picture where you have the vertical line, the 3 bars, and another vertical line. No, on the round piece.
Oh,
top
okay.
Left quadrant of the round piece. That symbol on the left, right there. Yeah,
that one.
That's neat because that's so abstract. That's utterly abstract. I mean, that's functionally equivalent to our letter F. Right? Like there's
it
nothing.
It actually look like a before. It does look like that. Huh.
Like F doesn't really mimic anything in nature. It's just, and so as terms of the development of the people and their abstract reasoning, it looks like they had an alphabet.
Yeah, there is a theory behind that.
And it looks like they have a blend of pictograms and alphabet, which is surprisingly like modern English. We have pictures and letters.
Mm-hmm. That honestly looks more, at least to me, that the top part of that looks more like numbers than anything else. Because
honestly, to me, it almost looks like a name, a date, some event, and something on the right. I don't know, like a pendant.
Yeah, that could be it.
Yeah, it was. These two was with a string at her neck, like a pendant, both of them. And this was in her, let's call it the pocket, because some sort of a small pouch that she had suit to her clothes or something like that. So yeah, it was a pocket.
It's like it's the equivalent of your Etsy necklace charm engraved. This probably said something, something silly like some little motivational phrase. Our two hearts beat as one.
Oh, no. No. Just no.
Oh, come on. You're saying our ancient ancestors might not have been like we are in some sense? Like they would have had the same kind of lifestyle and things. Well, okay, look.
I'm fully aware.
Like there's your mom jokes written in Latin from the Roman soldiers.
Yeah, that is the truth.
That like
funny. Stupid.
I think one of the worst things, like there's this weird projection that people do when they're looking back on history, and one is that they assume that they were knuckle dragging idiots, while at the same time presuming motives that didn't develop until much later because of social, by the perceived social environment. And then at the same time, they'll try to put their own knowledge in their heads and say, like, well, they must have acted like this because of germs and blah, blah, like they fucking knew what that shit was. Right? So.
Yeah. No, that was my jerk reaction to that. It wasn't to the fact that it would be equivalent to that. It was that specific phrase.
Right. But, I mean, because that
was the jerk reaction.
Oh, wow. So this is their expansion map.
Oh, that is a lot of space.
Yeah. And this pink spot is like where they originated, but this was moved to where now is as Transylvania.
Now, is this color coded by age or by population density or what?
By age.
Okay.
So you have the originating in pink. You have the slowly out thing. I do have a question. What is that? You have one dotted line there. What's that about?
Well, I think it's because of the color, but I'm not very sure.
Now these migration paths look a lot like the group known as the Sea Peoples.
What?
Have you ever heard of the Sea Peoples? So
not by name.
Okay.
Yeah.
So around 1200 BC, there was they had kind of a localized, air quotes, global civilization. You had like 14 or 15 different nations that, including like Egypt and some of the Greek city-state areas, and they all freaking collapsed all at the same time, right? And it
that is true. You had the Mycenaean something.
Yeah, the Mycenaeans.
Insert word to start. Thank you, Greeks, because they basically all fell apart at the same time.
Yeah, but it happened not just to the Greeks. There were only two nations that survived out of that collapse, and Egypt was one of them.
What was the other one?
I want to think it was the Greeks came out of it, right? Because they survived, but several other ones collapsed at that time, and they never recovered to their previous level of power, right? But it was a combination of famine and drought, famine, war, and civil war in some cases, and at the same time there was this mass migration of peoples called the Sea Peoples, because we don't have a name for them. We just know that some of them came in on boats, not all of them, but some of them, and they were particularly strong fighters. But they were carrying their women and children with them. So right, so they weren't just. It wasn't like an invading army per se. It was more of a migration.
It was migration with just really good fighters.
Yeah. And so if you look at these migration paths, that makes sense, because you have they're coming all through the Mediterranean, and I wouldn't be surprised. He said earlier that they found traces of them down in Africa as well, which means that they probably would have put in it, if they're already coming across the Mediterranean there, They probably would have came into Egypt and probably even into the near Jerusalem in that area. We could probably look there and find some historical evidence of them.
I mean, makes sense. Makes sense. Which is interesting because most things in history don't make a lot of sense when you look far back in the...
History makes a lot of sense if you quit treating it like it's today and stop treating them like they were knuckle dragging idiots.
Yeah.
I mean, these were people who, I mean, I think in many ways would have been considered far more competent than we are.
Oh, 100%.
Because they had to survive in their environment 24/7. And then we look at, we know that they had language, we know that they had writing. Do you have images of their jewelry? I'd love to see their jewelry.
Yeah, I'm preparing an image to go a little bit into the conspiracy realm.
Oh boy.
You will be amazed, I promise.
But that's pretty cool. So they made it all the way into the Punjab, either wrote or brought the ideas behind the Vedic texts. Huh. I wonder if there's a grammatical connection between them and the Sumerians, like if you looked at their writing.
Well, I was about to point that out. When you look at the writing on that charm thing, it did look decently similar.
Actually, the bull's head looks Proto-Hebrew.
Yeah, Proto-Hebrew too. But a lot of the like with the dashes and circles and that kind of thing, that crosses over. So in that manner. So I don't know what it means, but it's a thing.
Right? That was cool. My cat just came to visit.
I need to put foil on my head now that we're going into conspiracy theory realm?
Oh, it won't be that crazy, but...
Tinfoil is optional.
Weirdly, it will make sense.
In case an alien's inclined to probe his body.
No. Not that far. But kinda.
Kinda.
Yeah, I'm sharing now my entire screen because this will take too much to edit. So I will do this. But this is an original Sumerian statue that you see here of a god. They call this guy a god. And the conspiracy of today, they call these guys Anunnaki. You probably heard of them, the gods, the aliens that came and teach humanity or some stuff like that. Then you have here a recreation of that god, which you can find now. I think this is...
This looks more like India.
It's the Gilgamesh statue in Sydney University.
Where did this originate?
This is basically the same guy, but this was made a little bit more fancy than the original. And to my right, talking about the jewelry that you asked, this is a Dacian bracelet. This was traditional for the nobility, the royalty to wear this.
Can you blow that up? Can you make that bigger?
This one?
Yeah. That is a crazy amount of detail. I mean, that's highly sophisticated jewelry.
Yeah.
Was that a dragon? Or is it
yes.
a horse?
What is the...
Because there's a head or there's a face or something on that. I can't see it from this angle.
There is.
Mm.
What's the material?
Gold.
That's very pure gold. You can tell.
Yeah, no, I was about to say it's gold. It's really pure.
That's fast. So when I look at those two statues, like the one on the left looks like it's coming more out of the Middle East. The one on the right looks like it was carved in India.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, they both also remind me of the story of was it David or Samson that wrestled the lion?
Which one?
I think
I didn't hear what you said.
David or Samson that wrestled the lion.
The lion?
Yeah, there was a story. There was a biblical.
No, I know what you're talking about. I am blanking on the name. I think it was David.
Yeah.
No, David was the Goliath.
Yeah.
Or there was multiple Davids, maybe.
No,
there might have been multiple Davids.
Same David, but he did multiple things.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, is there multiple Davids, or is David David just done a lot?
No, that was the only David.
Okay.
I couldn't remember because I know one of them wrestled a lion, and I can't recall which one right off the top of my head.
I'm pretty sure it was David.
Yeah.
I was about to say, the internet is a thing for a reason.
But when you look at the way the face is carved in that's on the one in the middle. That's a much more Eastern carving, right? So,
yeah.
And the way the lion is done, the way it's stylized is much more like India.
Yeah.
Oh, what I wanted to point out that the so-called gods were wearing the Dacian bracelet, which was a sect of.
Wait a second, are they?
Hmm?
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah,
they
look
are.
at his bicep there.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Well, but on the other arm, it's more visible. Oh.
So what the Sumerians considered gods were actually Geti, probably. Because only they had this bracelet. So what we've discovered so far. And this is a very small link, but it's a link showing that the so-called gods were actually people from here.
That's
not gods.
That's not a small link, because the image, if that was royalty, then this would be basically the statue of a king.
Yes.
And the images like that were normally, if it's symbolic of their royalty, then that's not a small link. That would be significant.
And here you can see another version of that bracelet, which you can see the details.
It kind of looks like a snake in this one.
Huh. Man, looks
more reptilian.
Those, the feathering on that, the leafing, or I guess it'd be leafing, is amazing.
That is extremely detailed.
That would probably run you, what, $500,000 today? $1 million?
Oh, easily.
For something because, wow, I mean, that's just crazy.
So this is how much I will go into the conspiracy.
Well, keep going, man. Keep going. This is absolutely fascinating. So you mentioned a tunnel. What? Tell us about the tunnel.
What? Yeah, I'm curious about that one.
Ooh la la. So they said that what you call titans or giants or so on, their first descendants were the Hyperboreans, which it kind of translates to gods. And these Hyperboreans will be actually a big role in the game.
So what's the connective tissue there between, let's say, Flagstone and as the brand, and Getty Legacy, specifically here with the Hyperboreans, and you know, I see how you're tying it to the Hyperboreans to history, but how are you tying the Hyperboreans to your game?
There will be some sort of a species of humans that manage to evolve to a state that they reached immortality, but not as omnipotent or something like that. It will be basically they can be killed, but they don't die of old age. That's their immortality.
Kind of a functional immortality.
Yes.
Okay. So now is this tied to your magic system at all? Is this like, is there a connection there?
Yeah, they basically unlocked their chakra to a degree that they can use more powerful magic than the average people.
So,
But you can achieve that as well in the game.
so this is access to mana then.
Yes.
Oh, cool. No, this is pretty neat. So tell now in the game setting, what's going on there? What kind of story can the players expect?
The story, we will have a set of, let's call it templates, that based on those templates, the AI will generate stories and quests and events in the world.
Is there some overarching narrative going on there?
Yeah, there will be one, which it won't be clearly defined. Let's call it that way, because if two players start the game at the same time, they won't encounter the same. I don't know. Comparing to other games, I can say the main quest, but it's not your main quest.
Right.
There will be.
It's an overarching storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like what's the narrative tissue here that's tying it all together? I guess is what I'm getting at.
There will be Anna, the protagonist, let's call it that way, and there will be Shitara, the antagonist. And this will be basically, Anna will be a half-breed, but Shitara will be a Hyperborean. And Shitara will try to get revenge, and she will go to Duende initially to make allies in order to get revenge, because that land is very abundant in mana, and she's hoping that the creatures there will be more powerful even when they cross here. And Anna won't know her initial power on who she will actually go and discover who she is through this journey, and she will start to fight for the humans.
Mm-hmm.
And you can join either Anna or Shitara, or if you're brave enough, then you can form your own section and try to fight them both. Because the game gives you this freedom.
Right. That's cool. Sorry, just fixing my screens there for a second.
That sounds pretty cool.
So, you said the Hyperboreans escaped to Duende. Now, for those listening, Duende is the campaign setting for Flagstone, Dreams of God. And it was essentially a world created by the destruction of stars, putting high concentrations of mana in a single space. So the events of your game, they're coming after after the creation of Duende, and was there a cataclysm? You know, why did the Hyperboreans go to Dwende? You said they escaped there, so why did they go there? Was there something happening?
Yeah, there was a cataclysmic event on Earth, and they escaped there. But they didn't check when the cataclysm stopped, and the humanity actually evolved to this point, and only after that they realized that it's habitable now, so they started to return.
That's okay. So when they come back, are they just is it just them, or are there humans still here, or like what's going on?
Can you rephrase the question? I'm not sure I understood.
Yeah. Okay. So the Hyperboreans go to Dwende, and then you said they discovered that it was safe for them to come back. So when they came back, is it like nothing on Earth, or like, so are they rebuilding everything from scratch, or did they come back and find people here, or you know how did that play out?
They come back here and they portray themselves as gods, but they still remain hidden. They
So
they
so
won't show off or
so
something.
so there was human survivors here then.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So in that case, you said they portrayed themselves as gods. Tell us about that.
Well, in the Geti mythology, there is literally a god for everything, for every river, for every mountain, for every emotion, for every state that a human can be in. And because they've reached a higher point, they will take advantage of these beliefs, and they will show that they are the reason that those things exist. But
Okay.
that won't be the case.
So that's strikes me as very similar to the million gods of the Vedic text.
I didn't know about.
Yeah, well,
those.
Hinduism has, was it, 1 million gods, 3 million gods, something like that. So it's a lot.
It has there's a lot of them. Yeah. You have a lot of like don't have as many like quote unquote major gods, but I do know that there are a lot of godly entities in general in Hinduism.
Just noting the parallel.
Yeah.
Um, huh. Okay, so the Hyperboreans are, you're making the connection. Basically, the Hyperboreans were these gods that are being referenced, these powerful people or whatever.
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's cool. So now, are you extending this out to other cultures at all? Like, I mean, are you trying to say like, you know, the Odysseus's and the Davids and the, you know, Goliaths and the Samsons of the world? Are these also or even what's Hercules? Were these Hyperboreans as well?
Well, Hercules was, but he had his father was a Hyperborean, but his mother was human, as the same as the Greek story presents it. In the Dacian mytho, it's Heracles, but now it became Hercules. Also, a very famous one that you can find in ancient literature almost all over Europe, mainly in Greek mythology and also in Roman, writings. You will find Apollo, which is literally called Apollo the Hyperborean, that traveled from north somewhere, they don't know from where. He had a flying machine that was pulled by gooses.
What?
And he used to travel in Greece and teach the Greek
There was
various things.
that's also similar to the Apollo myth. It's similar to there was a Hindu one along the same lines, wasn't there?
Yes, exactly.
Give me a second. You said a like flying thing powered by geese?
No, pulled by goose. Like a horse pulls a wagon, this flying machine was pulled by gooses.
All right.
Geese, I think it's plural.
Yeah. All right. No, I just wanted to make sure I heard that right.
They have quack power. Is that where we get the phrase honk?
No, I don't think so. I would hope not.
Okay, so that's cool.
Yeah, and going a little bit back to the technology, because I finally managed to find a good site. There was this thing, which now you can compare it to this child and man, as in size.
That's a decent size.
Yeah, and this thing had various things carved on it.
Whoa.
It is made out of
like
bronze.
Cloth.
Can you zoom in on that?
This much. Does it? Yeah, I can scroll clip, but it will get pixelated. So you can see the dragon here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 2000-year depiction of a dragon. A lion. I'm just pointing that out. That's a lion.
Yeah, not a 5,000-year-old dick joke.
No, this is only 2000 years old.
2,000-year-old dick joke.
So what happened here in Sarmisegetusa, which was the capital of Dacia, there was a huge storm that pulled out trees. This doesn't happen normally in Romania. And what was odd, that below a tree there was this artifact laying around. Oh, this is zoomed one. Okay, perfect. And you can see the details on this bronze thing. So what they used for in the theory behind it, it's that they poured gold into these shapes and they made jewelry.
Oh, so this is a mold.
Yeah, you can see the negative lion's face on that.
Yeah, like a jewelry mold. That makes sense.
Yeah, what's interesting about it, there is lions attacking bears. You can see some sort of a cheetah attacking a bull here.
No, to me the interesting thing is, number one, this is metal, and number two, look how fucking smooth that is. That is a highly polished piece of metal. Okay, so for the people who can't see, this is a hexagon. Go back up to the scale reference there. This looks like to be like a hexagon metal mold, roughly the size of a child's head. You know, it's not small at all, maybe a foot across. And it's got negative molds for jewelry inscribed on every possible surface of it. So there's a relief of a lion's head. There's a relief of a small dragon. There's a two-sided dragon. That's interesting, because it's the same thing facing both ways, which means that there's there's probably a top plate. There's probably a top plate somewhere.
This is the other side.
Oh, cool.
I was about to say it's either that, or if you scroll back up.
There's a cheetah fighting a bull there. That was neat.
It could have been two halves, since it's the same thing.
Sure. You just pour both of them at the same time and then press them together somehow. I don't know. That's neat. Whoa.
Yeah, you can see here an elephant. Now,
fighting
Romania.
Wait a second. An elephant?
That's an
Yes.
elephant fighting a bull. There's a lion and a tiger killing a horse. Because you
Yes.
can actually see the stripes on the tiger.
No, yeah, yeah, an elephant. It was found in Romania, right?
No, no, by far. Here we have heavy winters, especially in that time.
No, I was saying this piece was found in Romania.
Yes, yes. This is a
Uh-huh,
Dacian
alright.
artifact.
They have griffins? Holy crap.
So, we didn't find elephant skeletons here. We found mammoths, but we didn't find elephants because it's impossible for them to live here. Even today,
Yeah.
the conditions in the zoo, we need to have extra heating systems and very that thing that creates like a wet control
Humidity.
and a
level.
lot of yeah exactly, in order to keep that animal alive and healthy in today in Romania. So the fact that they knew about these animals proves that they were actually traveling all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other possibility is that this was a Pangea artifact.
Yeah, how old?
They dated to 2,000 years.
I mean, the Silk Road would have been in effect.
Yes,
point, I
yes.
So it's not too.
They can't actually date if this is metal though, so they can't actually date the metal like that. That means they're dating where they found it.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody had that, it could have been much older. Right? Because they're gonna date it. They're gonna date it by the layer that they find it in, because you can't carbon date the metal.
Yes, yes.
So it's at least.
Yeah, it's at least 2,000. But man, like just the even the stippling on that is crazy precise.
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
I mean, it's obvious it was hand done, right? It was handmade, but
Do this.
I mean, that was crazy. How would you do those lion's heads? Because look how they curve. Like they would have to be carving, like tunneling into the metal to carve that like that. This had to be put on top of another mold, like made, like maybe they carved it in wood or something, and then poured or carved it in clay, and then poured the metal on top of it to make the mold, and then polished it out.
Yeah, that's probably how they did it.
Because look on that left side there, that left edge, it almost looks like there's deformations in the metal, but I can't tell if it's that or if it's an image. It's so small.
Yeah, there are, but think that this stood in ground, surviving rains and oxidations and so on. So that can also cause the destruction on the sides, because there are some sides like this one which is almost perfect.
Yeah, that's it. This is like incredibly precise
compared to this one.
Also incredibly preserved.
Yeah.
Like
probably the fact that they plant a tree after they hide this, because I guess that's what happens. Like, not sure. The fact that was a tree on top of it, probably that helped preserving it so much.
And about that, let's just talk for a minute about that top-down sleeping lion. Like, go back one picture. Where you were just at?
Oh, back.
Nope. There you go. The one on the left-hand side there. Yeah. I mean, think about that. Like, I mean, the artist who did that had to make the negative. So, I mean, I feel certain they had to carve it, like, and pour this on top of it.
It might have been hardened clay.
Yeah.
Because wood might have burned.
But man, think of like, okay, think about what this means in terms of their sophistication technologically.
Yeah.
Because that means that they had to smelt the metal well, they would have had the artistry to carve all the stuff in its proper shape, and then you have the technology to smelt the metal in large quantities and to make your molds and pour your molds and then to polish the finished product and then to recast. I mean, like, metal casting is not a super simple process.
Nope.
I mean, not with the level of
Takes
design
forever.
they're showing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, now actually, now that I think about it, I think there is another piece because those two big things are probably like a larger like animal or something, and it probably was put together. Yeah. No, that was probably one big. There was probably another half to it.
Yeah, I was thinking that it can be some sort of like you make these puzzle pieces and then you can put them together, or it can be something like a merchant holding this in, I mean, a blacksmith holding this in hand and saying, which one would you like me to put it on your sword as a decoration or something like that?
Yeah.
Right.
No, it looks really cool.
Okay. Well, so you showed us something a second ago off to the right. Which was it?
Are you talking about the same piece images or?
No, we've seen them. Those are good. Yeah. So when did they find this?
In 2013.
They found it. It's been discovered for a hot sec.
10 years isn't very long in archaeological terms.
That's why I said a second.
Yeah.
Didn't say a long time. I said a hot sec. That's
Well, that's some crazy detail. Because look, they actually have the same animals there: the horse, the lion, the tiger, and it looks like a bull.
like a bull, that family of things.
That whole top row. Right? It's like the animals are hunting, and then the bottom ones are making the kill and fighting over.
Yeah. Wait a second. What is the animals there? Okay, never mind. I thought it was my brain.
Sorry, I know this is probably not as interesting to listen to whenever you're just when you can't see it, but if you catch the live stream or catch the replay on Twitch, this is beautiful. So, have there been any other major discoveries that you want to share?
Not sure how well it will translate that, but let me check. There is not sure how well it will. I will start first to explain. There is these tablets was discovered somewhere in southeast. There is these tablets was discovered somewhere, and a farmer in not too long ago, he broke his plow, and he had a very fancy, expensive equipment, and in order to break that, you need to hit something very hard. Now, actually more than his land that he was farming. It was above an ancient city, and they discovered, now it's officially the oldest temple in Europe. They don't have enough evidence to say it in the world or something like that. And this temple started to make a little bit of waves because it doesn't fit in history. This place wasn't populated, where this city was discovered.
I can say that nothing you've said so far sits well in the modern history. I mean, I love it. It's amazing. It's awesome. But it's certainly not hasn't made it mainstream yet.
Yeah, but you can easily find it. Like that's why I wanted to share my browser here to see that you can easily access this information and look into it, because I'm not just talking mambo jumbo. I'm also showing evidence of this.
Nice.
Small proofs, one after another.
Well, so that leaves you with a fairly large space to try to fill when you look at how much territory that they're controlling. Which are you trying to represent all of that in the video game, or are you just focusing on a particular region?
Well, in the beginning, it will be only the Carpathy region, but hopefully with the help of how everything evolves amazingly, we will probably be able, at a later update, after the release, I don't know, probably, let's call it version 3 or something like that, we'll probably manage to compensate as much as possible as Eurasia region.
I have a question that I probably should have asked a while ago. What stage of production is this game in?
Pre-production. Now we are building the MVP for the game.
Yeah. I figured.
So, did you want to take a minute to get into some of the technology and stuff that you're messing with, or do you want to leave that for another time?
Yeah, I want to continue with the story.
Oh, okay.
Unless...
No. That's fine. So, what else do you have for us? I'm not even sure where to go from here. They've covered so much territory.
I'm trying to keep it in the ancient realm, because... Or should I put it in the... Actually, I'm asking here. Should I talk more about the ancient, or should I go into almost late medieval to show the influences of the culture?
Man, this is your journey. You take us whichever way you like. Either one is good. Well, yeah. Okay. So, yeah. How did they influence the medieval culture? That's a good place to go, I think.
I will start with the island of Britain, because everybody's familiar with UK, and with Arthur's story. So Arthur's father was Uther. Now you can find it Pendragon or something like that. I'm not sure how you find it now on Wiki, honestly. But in older texts and correspondences, you can actually find him named Uther Pendragon, which that's the Dacian symbol for. But we don't have a proper link to tie him to this, or probably that was a title, what we consider now his surname. But I don't want to go too deep into that rabbit hole. The point is that he had some problems conquering the island, and he found out about these crazy people that managed to, at least their ancestors managed to wear off the Persian Empire and actually destroy it. And he was hoping to find that this let's call them the descendants of these warriors were still as powerful as the stories tell. And he went into what's now known as the Massageti, which that's like the northern of Middle East. And he hired 1,000 Getty, basically. We can call them Getty because it's to before I go into this, just to eliminate any confusion that can come with this. Basically, imagine as Getty as the United States, and when I say the Massa Getty or Dacian or Tisas or so on, that means it's like talking about Illinois or talking about Texas or talking about California. It's like it's still the same.
Still the same group of people, but it's a more specific term for the area.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Now, he went to this Massageti and hired 1,000 of them and conquered the entire island with these guys. Which he...
When was this? What time? What?
Let me search for
Or
this.
spell a name. I might be able to get that.
Uther Pendragon. You said spell it, but my English is...
I'm fully aware.
not the best. King Uther. There you go. Let me give you the link.
Yeah.
There you go. This is the wiki of the guy. Now he managed to conquer Britain. That's why he became so famous. And he also led some legacy there. Amazing castles built in his time. Now, at this point in history, we learn that there is no more Getty. The Romans conquered them. They did whatever. But this is proof that they still existed even in Uther's time. Now, what's interesting, not only the fact that 1,000 people managed to conquer the entire UK as you know it today, thinking that the Romans had 2 legions that just disappeared in Scotland and nobody knows who killed them, what happened, where is their armor, where is anything. There is no proof of... We don't know where they disappeared. And this guy took 1,000 of these Massageti and conquered the entire island, which is unbelievable.
I mean, yeah, it all lines up with the timing. Because the Britannic, at that point, it would not be British. It was like not in their hands. It was not in Roman hands at the time of this happening.
Yes, definitely. By this time, the Roman Empire was crumbling to the ground.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So when it was crumbling, you kind of just see England wiped off the map.
Right.
Yeah. So what's interesting about this is that his son, after Uther died, he started to make a celebration in honor of his father, which he took a bunch of knights and they started to walk around the castle holding a standard. Now this is also a recent discovery when they discovered the carpet painted by a very famous artist in that time. The name is escaping me. That actually painted this celebration, and you can clearly see the Dacian standard there. And by this point, they shouldn't exist in history. Now, I will also search for an image, but I will describe it for the people who is just listening. So basically, imagine this was like a flag with a stick. You would have this normally in almost all cultures, but the Dacians, they had instead of a flag, they had on the top of the stick, they had a wolf's head, and out of leather, they made it a snake body. But this was like designed in such a way to also be, I won't call it a musical instrument because it was a taunting instrument, but it was making different sounds based on how the wind was blowing. So they intentionally charged when they attacked, holding these tinders, because they were making such a whooshing sounds that they were demoralizing the enemies to a point that some even flee from their path. Now, back to the author story. Yeah, the guys were still waving these stinders, and somebody made, because we have now a lot of genetic data, they actually tried to see if these people stood in UK or they moved back to where they came from, and they actually settled in UK, and now you call this region Wales. And this is they are basically descendants of these 1,000 warriors. And even in the House of Lords, you see it's comprised of 1,000 people.
So
at least it was for a while.
Now this matches up quite well with the was it the Clive Owen King Arthur movie where they presented the King Arthur and his knights as a group of horsemen. Now, I can't remember off the top of my head, but were they? I think they were supposed to be Scythians or Thracians. Were one of the Geti tribes horsemen?
Yes, the Scythians are basically almost the same as Massageti, so it's.
That's cool, because then that would establish a direct migration path, up to Europe and settling. That's crazy. That's really crazy. But it also makes sense why the legend would exist in the first place. I typically find that they're based on some grain of truth or some little piece of reality.
Is a completely off topic. Your cat is screaming.
Yeah, I know. He's a noisy little butthead. And, yeah.
Just wanted to point it out so that people aren't questioning what's behind your thing in the background.
Now, this shows their influence in UK and even how the House of Lords is structured today. Now, to go to the church were basically the same guys, but because Geti didn't have a clear god, like you can go now in Greece and you see Zeus' face and you can see Athena's face and so on. But the Geti didn't had proper statues for every single god, because that would be insane. And the ones that migrated west first, the Celts, the Celts, I think, I don't know how to pronounce that properly in English, they started to materialize their gods, basically. That would be a way of saying it, because they started to say this god represents this, so he needs to look like a tree, or this one needs to look like a fawn, or this one needs to be like a centaur, or so on. So that's why you start to see in that culture they have the exact same pantheon, but all represented by animals, by let's call it the dryads, because that's the most common one which is there. Another influence that you can see in the gods, that you can even see today, their architecture, the Gothic architecture, it's that the gods were basically Geti, but there is a story why they call themselves gods. There was this uh, king that was very loved by everybody, and he just died of illness very, very sudden. Now, some theories that probably he was poisoned, but nobody knows well. And he had two sons. One, because in that time it was common to name whatever a person, similar to how you see today in Africa. They call their children table or something like that. So one of his sons was called Geti. The other son was had a very weird long name. And that one was very jealous on Getty, the guy, because he supposedly had to inherit because he was an older son, and he killed him so he can secure the throne. Now, what this guy did, in order to not to create a rebellion and ruin himself, he ordered the royal guards that they need to spread the word that from now on nobody is allowed to use the word Getty, which in my language will be jet. And they stopped using that word, and to be able to refer to them, to travelers or strangers, they started to say God. Well, basically, they just changed to one letter, and that in English is GOTH. And they started to refer themselves as gods, and that's how gods came to be.
So then would establish almost a direct connection with a lot of the Germanic tribes.
Yes.
That's crazy. That's wild. So you sound like you have like a really rich culture there to play with. How do you think you're going to present this to the player? Like, what's the player going to do in the game? Are they do they? Or,
Yeah, how are they going to learn everything?
Well, I don't want to force the player into the culture. So, first of all, the player will be able to choose his own path. That means that if he wants to ignore everything, he will. But let's say he goes, for example, into a village. He will, let's say, just for the sake of the example, he finds a funeral. Now he will see that at this funeral there will be 3 women making jokes. There will be also 2 men that will start to cheer everybody up, and they will enjoy that person died. Probably this will create a lot of curiosity, because this is how funerals used to be.
More of a celebration of life than a mourning.
Than a mourning of death.
Yes, there was no mourning of death. There was actually mourning of birth.
That's so backwards, but it's interesting. Well, Christian, it's about time for us to wrap up here. So first off, I'd like to thank you for showing up and having a chat with us. This has been really, really cool. And even though I'm familiar with some of the lore and stuff, you're always bringing new stuff to the table. So thanks for sharing with us. That's been awesome.
I have never heard any of this stuff before today.
Right. And I'm actually yeah, and I'm sure most people haven't. Like nobody talks about it. So I'm really, yeah. I know. I'm looking forward to seeing how far this goes and seeing what you're able to do. And we'll definitely be having you back on throughout and keep us updated with your game's progress. And maybe we can get into some of the technical stuff that you're doing another time and see how this story comes together. And yeah, anytime you have some extra images or research or something to share with us, just let us know. We'd be happy to have you on and hear it, because
Oh,
this has been really fascinating. And from a world building perspective, it's really interesting to see how these small influences can spread across multiple cultures. I mean, so far today you've talked about them influencing the Hindu cultures in the Punjab, the Middle Eastern cultures, so Sumeria and Babylon, down to the Greeks, to the Germans, to the British. It's like, I mean, that's a massive amount of influence to come from a single civilization.
yeah.
And the technology that they had was um, looked more advanced than what you would expect from a Bronze Age civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's really fascinating, particularly with their writing system. That was a very complex writing system.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it wasn't just, it didn't look like just simple pictograms. Um, but yeah, man, thanks for coming. We look forward to having you again. And guys, to everyone listening, thanks for hanging out with us. We really appreciate your support. Christian, can you tell them where they can find you? Can they find you on social media anywhere?
Yeah, on LinkedIn, I'm more responsive. Twitter, Facebook, basically almost all of them, except TikTok. I'm not TikToky guy.
Okay.
And you can definitely find us on gakrivastudio.com.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks for that. And for those looking for news for it, we're going to be hosting Getty Legacy on the Flagstone World Anvil page. The link